Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Reclaimed American Podcast. This is episode 39, and this is the first episode of a new direction for the show. One of the things that I've been working on is trying to find other veterans that are doing things that are creative, um, artistic, in some way they're building something. Like myself, I'm a woodworker. I'm looking to get a hold of people that are gearheads, artists, writers, singers, anything that helps them to get those creative juices flowing, helps them with things going on in their head, and can possibly even bring in a few bucks to their pockets. But today we have Mike Newcomb on the show. And before we get into Baby T Chronicles, I do have to ask you one question about your name.
Okay.
Is your middle name really Duke?
No, actually, the story behind that is when I got to my first unit in the Army after basic and AIT and all that good, happy stuff. Um, I went in front of the motor sergeant, platoon sergeant, and all them, and they took one look at my name and they said, Newcomb, huh? Well, I'm going to call you Duke from here on out.
That is freaking awesome. I saw that in your name. I'm like, Duke Nukem. Dude, I love that fucking game.
Oh, I do too. And, it's just a shame that the last one was so horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the last one? What was it? PC or did they come out on one of the platforms?
X, Xbox 360.
Really? How did I
It
miss
came
that
out.
game?
It came out about 10 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, the PC version was just freaking awesome. I love that. I mean, I would still play it to this day if I had a copy of it. But actually, I'm sure I could probably find one if I really look hard enough.
Well, it's actually funny. Back in the day in high school, we had a what we called, you talk about PC games. We had the Quake 2 break crew. So during our, mid morning break in high school, we'd go into the computer lab, and someone had pirated a copy of Quake 2 and stuck it on all the computer lab computers.
Right on. That is freaking awesome. All right, so let's jump back for a sec. Now, like I had already told you, we do the Baby T Chronicles every episode, and right now my wife is 36 weeks pregnant. Right now, today is the 15th of December. Tomorrow we have another baby doc appointment, and honestly, I don't know what all they're going to look at on this appointment. The last one, they did a swab. They always check her weight, check her blood pressure, monitor the baby's heart for a little bit, make sure everything sounds good. And up to this point, knock on wood, everything has been. But I tell you, there's one thing that, or one of the things that a lot of guys have told me in the past is that, oh man, when my wife was pregnant, I got the morning sickness with her, or I had the weight gain, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or the moodiness. Well, you know, I would never say I'm moody, but I will say that the last month, ever since a little before Thanksgiving, I swear I'm putting on as much weight as my wife is. Um, I have never been as heavy as I am right now, and it drives me nuts.
Well,
Now,
let's also remember it is the holidays. I mean,
that's true. I mean, you got the holidays, you got the winter weight, because I've definitely put on weight for the winter. But I don't know, man. Like the last couple weeks, almost, it seems like I went from 260, now I'm up to 270, and I'm like, holy shit, how the hell did that happen? And I've always been kind of a big guy, but I've never been this big of a guy. And I don't know. Just it's the weirdest shit. I don't know what's going on with that. Um, Now, like when you've obviously got kids, I can hear them in the background, especially when we first started chatting. How many kids you got?
all together.
Yeah. Well, how many do
Well,
you have that live with you? How about that?
we have two that stay with us in the RV, and a freshman in high school that stays with grandma, who lives just down the road because she just didn't want to get crammed all the way up in the RV with the rest of us.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, and of course she's a freshman in high school, so mom and dad are just kind of, you know,
Hmm.
passe now. She doesn't want to be seen with us, all that good stuff.
Right, right, right. Uh, so,
But all told, there are 7 kids between myself and my wife.
holy crap. Wow. How do you,
3 boys and 4 girls.
wow, that is crazy. I can't imagine that many. Like I told you when we were kind of chatting back and forth on Messenger, my wife and I, we've been married 17 years, and this is going to be our first child. And I mean, I would love to say we're going to have at least one more, but I'm 45. My wife just turned 40 in October. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, you know? But if it
Well, you just
does,
never know.
that's true. Like one of the guys I work with, he said his brother, him and his wife were married 13 years. They never had any kids. They always wanted them. They'd even started talking about adopting, and then she got pregnant. And it's like, all right, cool, we got our first one. And then they got pregnant again and again. And I think now they've got like 4 kids. So you never know. You know what happens happens. You know God's got His plans. We're just here living with them. But now the thing I was going to ask though is during the pregnancy, was there did your wife go through any kind of like food cravings or like midnight? Hey, I want that slice of cheesecake, and you're going to eat it with me, kind of deal.
Well, the majority of this last pregnancy, I worked in the oil field, and I was in and out. So my time home was, I got, I never really heard any of the cravings.
Gotcha. Yeah, with my wife, her thing, she
She
loves.
says she didn't have any.
My wife, she loves. She's never been a sweets person, but for whatever reason, right now the baby loves the sweets, and that's got her loving the sweets. And so I know, and I've always been a sweet tooth. I know that's where a lot of my issues are from right now. But all right, let's see. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and shift and say. So what did you do in the service?
I was a 91 Bravo wheel vehicle repair in the U.S. Army. I served for 6 years. I was with 4th Infantry Division, 4th
Mhm.
Combat Aviation Brigade to be specific. And then we BRAC moved as a unit to Fort Bliss, and which we reflagged as the 501st Combat Aviation Brigade under 1st Armored,
Okay.
which which was interesting to say the least. I can't say I liked Fort Bliss better than Hood or Hood better than Bliss because, well, they both kind of sucked.
Gotcha. Well, it could be worse. You could have been a Marine and been in 29 Palms. I hear everybody hates that place.
Ain't that the truth? I've heard the same thing.
And then now, did you have anything? Or the reason I'm about to ask this next question is there was a podcast that was out a few years ago called Cigars and Sea Stories. And one of the things they would do is they would get guys on the show and they would basically just shoot the shit, and tell sea stories, funny things that happened that nobody else ever knew happened. And do you have anything like that happened that's funny that you won't get too much trouble if you say around your wife?
You know, there's a bunch of stories that I could tell, um, but because they all involve other people,
Ah, gotcha.
and I'd hate for them to listen to the podcast and be like,
That son of a
I know that
bitch.
story. Yeah. So I'm going to keep most of the stories to myself this time because
Understood.
um, I just don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. I know during my time we had. Uh, I got lucky. I was Navy, but I was shore duty my whole enlistment. I was only in for 4 years. I was 94 to 98. And I got stationed in Guam to work with a bunch of ordnance men testing missiles and stuff like that. And man, we had everything from guys that got hooked up with dancers, if you will, and that just took them down a slippery spiral slope of oblivion. And drinking was usually the biggest thing out in Guam. Um, Drinking age was 18 out there, and there were a
Well,
lot of
that's
people.
always fun.
Yeah, there were a lot of people. They just should not have been drinking at that age. Um, yeah, that was bad. I had this thing where, and speaking of dancers, I actually had a couple that were roommates. I got lucky enough to get permission to move off base, and I had an apartment. So I had dancers as roommates, and there's this one nightclub that some of them worked at. That it was run by this little Korean couple, Mama San and Papa San, and they swore up and down I was good luck because every night that I came in and I was, like I dropped the girl um, off at work, right? I would buy the first drink and then I'd get up and I'd leave. And they swore that night they were just swamped with customers, busy as hell. So they made a deal with me. They said, "You come in, you buy first drink, you drink rest of night free." I'm like, "Okay, I can do that." And I mean, I never like overly took advantage of it, but I'd come in, I'd drop off my roommate, I'd sit down, get the first drink, pay for it,
Uh,
and then I would get up and I'd go some other club, I'd go do whatever, but then I'd come back usually like 9 o'clock, have a couple of drinks for free, go out to another club somewhere, and then come back. And the way I usually did it is since I dropped them off, I'd also pick them up at the end of the night. And so I'd get to the club, I'd have one more drink, and depending on how I felt would depend on if I just went out to my car and slept until they got done for the rest of the night, or I would go out to the car, I'd make myself puke, and then I'd go to sleep and sleep it off. And then by the time they'd get off work, I'd be fine, I'd be rested, good to go, and we'd drive home. And that was my weekend for like, I don't know, a year and a half. And
well,
that,
I can tell you from experience that telling a service member that buy your first drink and the rest are free is a dangerous, dangerous game to play.
oh, that it is. Fortunately, I don't think they served Jagermeister at that club because that was a drink that another dancer I had dated got me hooked on. Oh, that was a deadly brew, man. Um, the night I was leaving Guam to come back stateside, everybody took me out to for that last night, last hurrah, right? And I'd been drinking 32-ounce margaritas, had a couple shots, and I'm feeling it, and it's not even 10 o'clock at night yet. And so I tell myself, all right, I need to get up and I need to get away from all this for at least a little bit. So a couple of people were going down to the ATM to get a drink, or I mean to get some cash. So I'm like, all right, I'm going with them. I'll be back in a few minutes. So I get up, we walk down to the ATM, we come back, and there's like, my mind tells me there was probably 10 to 15 shots lined up on the table for me. I look at the shots, I look at all the people, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm doing all this. Y'all are helping me with this shit. So I started doing shots with people. And I think at that point I wasn't drinking Jagermeister. I think that was a product called Baron Jaeger or Baron Jaeger, something like that. It was like a honey flavored Jagermeister.
That sounds unique.
Oh, that was evil. That was pure evil in a bottle. But it did its job. It got me drunker than hell. And after that, I remember we all said we're going to Denny's to get something to eat. That's the last I remember until one of my buddies is picking me up off the floor in Denny's. He was a short Samoan dude, but stocky and strong as hell. He grabs me by the shirt, picks me up, and I remember this part. He's like, "Shad, I love you. He might have called me Turner. I don't know. He's like, man, I love you, but if you end up on the floor again, I'll make sure you stay there. And I just looked him right in the eye. I'm like, yes, sir. Okay. So he sat me down in the seat. I don't remember what I ate or if I ate anything. I'm sure I did. I just don't remember. But the next thing I remember is waking up at my buddy's apartment, hugging his toilet, looking down at my pants that had puke all over the front side, and going, damn it, I was going to wear these on the airplane home. And no, no problem. And so at that point, I look at my watch. I'm like, oh shit, because I still had to take my my luggage to the airport and get checked in. Then haul ass back to base to turn my car in so it could get shipped back to the states. And then, of course, our XO, who was our new XO, he decided he wanted to be the one to take me to the airport. Which at that point I didn't really care who took me to the airport. But you know that phrase, loose lips sink ships? Yeah, he asked me questions while I was still pretty much three sheets to the wind. That my understanding is that changed the way things worked at that command from that point on. Because a lot
Oh
of us,
Lord.
yeah, a lot of us that were like first timers, it was our first enlistment, and we got stationed out there. We did what I did. We extended to the end of our enlistment, and we got out. Well, my understanding is he made it to where they couldn't do that anymore. So sorry guys, I fucked that one up. But yeah, that was my understanding of what happened after I left. Is that a lot of people that were trying to extend their enlistment or their duty at that station to the end of their enlistment and get out, they got all that shit denied, and then they had to go out to the regular fleet from that point on. And yeah,
So you're the warning label for Guam.
absolutely. I accept that responsibility because I fucked it up. Anyways, all right. Well, let's move on from this madness. And what is it that you do now? Or let me rephrase. What is it you do now, and does it relate to what you like to build or create?
Well, I am a trained mechanic, and obviously from being in the military, and right now I'm working on foundation drilling rigs, and in my spare time, I work on cars, trucks, lift kits, wheels, tires, install bumper replacements. Basically, what I wind up doing is I wind up building people's dream trucks,
Nice.
which it. I got into it professionally about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer,
Mhm.
and in the process, it's a hell of a lot of fun to take my experience from the military and trying to get Humvees stuck, and I mean, and transition that to civilian side and helping people realize their dreams.
Okay. So, would it be safe to say that one of those dreams is building like awesome off-roaders?
Yes, that is yeah, yes, you can go play with them. Just report back to me. Yes, I've built some pretty awesome, gnarly, lifted big swampers, trucks that may or may not get broken quicker
Mm,
than your average truck
gotcha.
because they get abused, they get taken out into places where normal pickups just should not go.
Right. And do you have one of these awesome off-roaders yourself, or
I've had a couple in my time. As of right now, with the kids and everything, I got my service truck that I'm planning on doing things to,
mhm.
and in the meantime, I just live vicariously through others.
There you go. There you go. I am totally in that boat right now. But now, do you do any of this as like side work to bring in extra money, or how does that relate?
Yes, I do try to get into side work as often as I can. Lately, it's mostly been simple repairs, major repairs. I'm in the process of doing a clutch job on a 2004 Ram 2500 heavy duty with the 24 valve HO high output. It's a four wheel drive. It's lifted, and just trying to do a clutch on that. Entertaining
Oh
to
yeah.
say the least.
So Dodge did not make it mechanic friendly.
I'm not saying it's not mechanic friendly, but it's just hard to do when you don't have a lift.
I
Because
gotcha.
if at any time I needed to pull the transmission out from underneath the truck,
Mm-hmm.
I would have had to have lifted all four corners of the truck, set it down jack stands, and the shop I'm doing it at right now only has two jack stands big enough to make it safe.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, Now I do have to ask you another, and I mentioned this in when we were talking before we started recording, is that you had mentioned you live in an RV.
Yes.
Now, one thing I find it fascinating that you can get that many people. What was it? You, your wife, two kids, two dogs, and two cats into
Yes.
an RV. I've been trying to sell my wife on the idea of moving in and living on our boat, but I know she doesn't like that idea. Years ago, I got a 48-foot boat that someone was giving away for free because they couldn't take care of it anymore. And after sinking it 3 times in a year, the marina they had it at said, "You need to get rid of this. We don't care where it goes, just it cannot stay here." So the guy put it on Craigslist. My buddy saw the ad. He contacted me. We contacted the guy. Next thing I know, I've got a boat. Now the engines are shot. I've got two engines up in Austin that need to be rebuilt. So the engine or the boat has not been moving under its own power in many many years. But right now it's a battle to clean everything up and then redo everything. But how is it living in tight quarters with people, especially little ones?
It can be challenging. Um, you know, it sometimes a lot of times it takes the patience of Job that I don't necessarily have. I mean, I have more patience, I like to think, than the average person from my experiences of being a mechanic because that takes patience.
Yeah.
But it can be a challenge to live in tight quarters. Now, where you got the little one coming,
Mm-hmm.
it might be a little bit easier. But where I got toddlers,
Mm-hmm.
they're all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I fully understand my wife's hesitation, because once the little one becomes a toddler, there's stairways that she can tumble down. There's edges of the boat she could fall off of and into the water. So I think that's, you know, before we found out that we're pregnant, I I think I was like this close to having her sold on the idea. But then once we became pregnant, it's yeah, that's pretty much out of the water. But I was looking at it as, man, we got the boat. It's only this much per month to have it at the slip. Get rid of the house. We save a shit ton of money, and then we buy our dream house out in the country, or at least a piece of property that we enjoy, and get the hell out of Houston. But yeah, all those
Well, I
plans
don't
are
blame you for wanting to get out of Houston.
now. Whereabouts are you living?
Canyon Lake, Texas.
Oh shit. I used to go up there many many times. I grew up out in Bandera, and we
I used to bum around down in South Texas between like Divine and Hondo and Lytle and all those areas too. So
right on, right on. So now another thing that you wanted to mention though is you guys have a nonprofit that you're doing, correct?
that is correct.
And what's going on with that?
Well, our nonprofit is called Heroes to Hard Hats.
Uh
We
huh.
are a not-for-profit organization that aids in connecting military veterans, either transitioning, homeless, unemployed, or underemployed, with jobs that pay what in the state of Texas is a living wage. In the state of Texas, it takes, if I remember my numbers correctly, something like 16 to $18 to afford a two-bedroom without spending more than 33% of your income.
Hmm.
So we aim for jobs that pay higher, $20 an hour and higher, to be able to facilitate uh, people being able to live above that median in Texas.
Gotcha. And how long have y'all been doing that?
We started in 2017, and in the last 2 years, we've helped over 200 veterans.
Nice. Very good, man. And are you teamed up with any particular companies, or just you look for jobs all over?
Well, for the last 2 years, we've had contacts inside of H&P Drilling, Patterson UTI Drilling. Um, she has the list of all the companies because, like myself, since 20, for a while, I've worked in the oil field as well. So me being gone and home, I don't do as much with the organization as I want to.
Hmm.
But she does the majority of the work, and um, I'm just the mouthpiece, and it was my idea in the first place. So
Right on. So if someone wanted to get with you guys and get one of these jobs that you can find, how do they do that?
they can find us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/heroes to hard hats. If they search Heroes to Hard Hats in Facebook, we are typically the first result. We actually just got a shout out from a bear with me here. I need to go back and look because, but we just got a shout out by a government official in California on their page for what we do, and we've been recognized by the governor of Texas and other officials.
Hmm.
So I mean, if they look out there and they want to look us up, they can find information on us to make sure we are legit. But yeah, Here's the Hard Hats on Facebook is the best way to find us, and we do respond pretty rapidly.
Hmm.
It is a slow time right now because, as most people their interest in the oil field know, it's up and down.
Right.
And right now, it's unfortunately on a downslide. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay on the downslide.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. And so, are you currently looking for more companies that are also willing to work with y'all?
Every day,
Every.
every day. If we could, the more companies, the more opportunities we have to connect veterans with high-paying jobs, the better the better we could do our job in terms of helping fight the homeless crisis, and in my eyes, help fight the 22 a day crisis that the veteran community is currently facing as well. Because I believe that having a purpose in your life will aid, not solve, but aid in the hopelessness that a lot of veterans may feel.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I know when I was doing, I'd done handyman work for a while, and when I started getting to the end of that, was because we were actually about ready to lose our house, and my wife had been off in Costa Rica visiting with family, and I'd kind of hid a lot of that from her, and tried to protect her from the shit show that was coming. And when she finally found out, that wasn't a pretty time. But needless to say, then that's when I went out and I started looking for work. And I got in with the company I work for now doing the overhead crane work. And thanks to them, I was able to save the house. But I know when you get into that moment when you're like, fuck, we're going to lose our house, we're going to lose everything. What the hell do I do? That's a real easy time for people to get down that slippery slope and go the wrong way. But it's good to hear that there's people like y'all that are trying to help people find work that isn't the $15 an hour. Because I've got that page that I mentioned to you, Hire a Veteran Houston, and one of the things that a lot of the people get kind of pissed about on the veteran side is, oh, all these jobs that people are posting are only offering, $15 to $17 an hour. I need more than that. I've got real bills going on. I've got a house I'm about to lose. I got whatever. And,
And what I tell the applicants that come through us is find something in the interim, because it's not always a instant process.
yeah,
It's a lot of hurry up and wait in terms of getting hired in the oil field. I know people that waited 3, 4, 5 months for a callback after they put their application in.
right.
And then even after the callback, they're waiting a couple months before their interview or before they start. So I always recommend that people find something in the interim that pays good enough to at least keep your house.
Yeah. Yeah, I know right now I'm at a point where, once this baby's born, my wife is terrified of what I do. She hates the fact that I work on overhead cranes. I'm up in a man lift, 30, 50 feet up in the air. And so I think once the baby's born, I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of soul searching and see what I want to do. Um, but
Well, the oil field is not for the faint of heart either, because you're up in the man lift.
oh yes,
We're up in a man lift, and something I like to say is, in order to move up, you got to be able to go up to the monkey board up on the derrick,
hmm
and that itself, on an average drilling rig, you're 30. The floor is 30 feet off the ground, and then the board is about 80 feet off the floor.
oh wow,
So you're 110 feet in the air, and you're looking through, you know, the fingers, which are about 5 inches across
hmm
gap, and you're also walking on steel that you can look down through, because it's it the way it's designed. I mean, they can't. I haven't been on a rig that has a solid steel board.
right. It's always the graded decking.
Yes,
Yep.
kind of like what you probably deal with the overhead cranes.
Yeah, some of the older ones are that steel graded, decking, and oh man, that shit's hard on the knees if you got to kneel down to look in an electrical panel or something. But
Well, you were in the Navy. You ought to have some knee pads.
while that is true, I do own knee pads. I try to stay off those as much as possible now. But let's see. Is there anything else you want to mention? With the Heroes to Hard Hats, or anything else you got going on?
Honestly, we're not out here to do it to get praise. The accolades are great, but I don't care if anyone outside of who we help notices what we do. As long as we can help keep families off the streets,
hmm
take homeless veterans that are currently on the streets and put them into houses. I mean, if we can get someone employed, even, you know, give them a reason for being,
Yeah.
that's our ultimate goal.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I will definitely put all of that, the Heroes to Hard Hats info, into the show notes. Um, do you want me to put anything about your um, car expertise in there as well?
Well, if they want to reach out to me, they can contact us through Heroes to Hard Hats. My page is a private page, so here reach out to me through Heroes to Hard Hats. If you're in the Central Texas area between Austin and San Antonio,
hmm
and you need some work done on your vehicle, You can reach me through the Heroes to Hardheads page. Just make sure you make it clear that you are trying to reach me and not the organization itself.
Okay.
And as I grow my personal company, um, I will be creating a new page and I'll update everyone.
Awesome. All right. Well, Mike, I appreciate your time. We're well, I know I've got I think we're about 30, 40 minutes on the interview so far. And I'm going to go ahead and let you get going because I know you got a family that, you just brought groceries home and then you jumped in the call with me, and I appreciate the hell out of that. And
Well,
I,
they're off taking our teenage daughter to uh, her boyfriend's house for a birthday party. So
oh God, I'm
they
jealous.
left me at they left me at grandma's to move around some laundry.
Oh, joy. All right, Mike. Well, you have yourself a wonderful day. Enjoy doing that. I'm actually heading to my in-laws to pick up something, and then we're going grocery shopping. So you gotta
Well, looks
love
like we're on
summer.
opposite. I was about to say, it looks like we're on opposite sides of the spectrum today.
Pretty much, pretty much. So, like I said, I appreciate it. You have yourself a good one, and I will definitely get the info out to you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Not a
And
problem.
y'all may have beat us yesterday, but we at least beat you last 3 years.
That's true. That's true. You did. So, all right. I'll talk to you later, man.
Take it easy, brother.
You too. Bye.
Bye.